Hi, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to listen to my story today. I'm here to tell you a little bit about Children's Therapy Center. My name is Jennifer O'Neill, and my role here is to find grants and other special funding to support the projects like our Burien Therapy Center. I have to tell you that it's a little bit unusual for us to be talking specifically about a building, because as interesting and engaging as our buildings are, we really believe that they're just a vehicle for what happens inside the building. So on that note, I'm going to tell you a story about a little boy in the Burien community who got services from us. This is my son Zachary, and he is 10 years old. A few months ago, I had picked him up after school, and we had run several errands, and it was one of those long days. It was also one of those February days that gives Seattle its terrible reputation about the weather. And it was cold, and we were tired, and we really just wanted to get home. And to make matters worse, my gas light had come on, and I was frantically looking for a gas station. We took our exit off of the freeway, and we stopped at the light at the bottom of the exit. There at the bottom was a woman holding a sign that explained that her and her dog were both homeless. Now, I'll admit to you that I noticed the woman, but I didn't truly see her standing there. And when the light turned green, I pulled through the exit, and a couple blocks down the street, we pulled into a gas station. As I was turning off the car, I turned to look at Zachary, who had giant tears rolling down his face. And I realized in that moment that he had seen the woman. And I knew that his poor little heart was breaking a little bit. And so I turned to him and I said, "Zachary, what do you want to tell me?" And he said, "Please, Mom, please can that woman come home and live with us?" And my heart broke a little bit too in that moment. And I spent the next few minutes explaining to him that sometimes it's not a good idea to let people come home with you who you don't know. And we didn't know if her dog would get along with our pets. And we sat there for a few minutes, and he finally got to the point where he realized this maybe wasn't the right action to take. But I could see that he still needed to do something for this woman. So I suggested that we go across the street to the store, and he could purchase some food for her. On his own, he picked out 2 sandwiches so she could have one for tonight and one for tomorrow. He picked out some fruit and some potato chips, a small bag of dog food, some Chewies, and a really large bottle of water so they could share it, because dogs really shouldn't drink soda. We took our groceries back to the intersection, and as I gave them to the lady, I explained that Zachary really needed to know that she would have food for tonight. That night, it took us an hour to complete the last mile of our commute. When we got home, Zachary was still so passionate about this woman that he sat down and he penned his first letter to the president. And as you can see here, he started the letter with "Dear Mr. President Obama." And he continues to say how he noticed somebody else that needed help. And in his letter, he says all the things that he would like President Obama to do. And he signed his name. And he closed the letter promising the contents of his savings account to help people and animals. Well, not to be outdone, I penned my first letter to the president. And in this letter, I wanted to let him know not just the backstory of how we came to see the homeless woman and her dog, but the backstory of Zachary and all of the things that had to come together for Zachary to be able to write his letter. When Zachary was younger, he was diagnosed with autism. Zachary's delays and deficits were many. He did not speak, and he did not understand why we should communicate. He did not have the motor skills or the finger strength to hold a pencil. He couldn't sit at a table or do an activity for more than 30 seconds, and he didn't understand why he should. He hated books, and he didn't know his name. And on that day, I felt the loss of 1,000 dreams. I didn't know what to do, and I was so worried about him. The people that I thought would step up didn't. I was worried that he would never be able to tell me what was on his mind, that he would never make friends, that he would never understand who he was, and he would never understand when I told him that I loved him. Shortly after diagnosis, we arrived at Children's Therapy Center Burien, which was really just 2 portable buildings at Woodside Elementary. I would later learn not to judge that book by its cover. I arrived at our appointment armed with a long list of all the things that he could not do, and I fortified myself for the very worst. And at some point during that initial appointment, our occupational therapist turned to me and she said, "Wow, Zachary has a great smile." And this startled me. I had been so distressed and so focused on his deficits that I had forgotten that he was still my little boy. And yes, he has a fabulous smile. Over the next 12 months, we would receive a wide array of services from Children's Therapy Center. Most importantly, I would receive extensive parent training. I would learn to use tools like sign language and picture schedules to help Zachary communicate. I would learn ways to break down activities so that he could understand them. I would learn how to put words where he could see them, and I would learn how to look at the world from his eyes. We would learn games and strategies to help build coordination and finger strength, and this would help him learn to concentrate and to focus and to write. And we would learn communication and literacy skills that would help build his love of reading and learning. We would learn ways to help Zachary interact with the world around him, and Zachary would learn his name. But most importantly, I would be able to move from a parent who was experiencing profound grief that we weren't normal to someone who is embracing the fact that we are blazing new trails. And I wanted President Obama to know this. So in my letter, I told him that Zachary had moved from a child who needed services to someone who was willing to speak up for others. I didn't realize it then, but we were very lucky. We didn't have to wait for services. But unfortunately, that's not the case with children being referred to us today. So why is that? You may not realize that in the state of Washington, over 15% of all children have a developmental delay or disability, and this includes things not just autism, but Down syndrome and cerebral palsy and strokes and spina bifida, and some of these children are just simply behind their peers. In addition to that, 1 in every 88 children have autism. These two things have contributed to an enormous amount of referrals to our organization. Currently, we have over 450 children on our wait list. These children are waiting up to 6 months for services. This left us with a very important decision to make. We could have said, nothing. There is always going to be a wait list. But that just is not who we are. We weren't okay with having a wait list. Pediatric therapy is a space-intensive service, which means that in order to serve more children, we needed more space. This led us to the decision to open Children's Therapy Center Burien. This left us with another decision to make. How are we going to raise the money? In traditional capital campaigns, nonprofits will raise all the money first, and then they'll purchase the building and make the renovations. If we had followed this path, we would open the entire building at the same time, but it would take us about 2 to 3 years. That would mean that children would still be waiting, and our wait list would continue to grow. So we decided to take the other road. This other road involved a $2.1 million short-term bridge loan, but this allowed us to renovate and fundraise at the same time, and we were able to open the building in stages. By taking this other path, children were able to receive services within 12 months of us beginning renovations. By opening in phases, we were able to start providing orthotic services in January 2013 and therapy services shortly thereafter. We hope to have the entire building completed by summer 2014, which would include a playground and a sensory garden. We have been very busy writing grants and securing other funding, and to date we have reached 48% of our fundraising goal. You may be asking yourself, well, how does a therapy center in Burien affect families who don't live there? Well, you might not know this, but families who live in southwest King County are currently getting services at our other locations in Kent and Tacoma. So by providing more services in the Burien community, we are freeing up therapy spots at our other locations. Additionally, our orthotics program serves kids from across the state of Washington. So by expanding that program, we're able to offer more services and hire additional orthotists. So I want to ask you this. What if Zachary had had to wait for services? Would he be in a typical classroom, saving taxpayers thousands of dollars every year because he doesn't need special education? Would he be a peer mentor to another little boy in his school? Would he be enjoying the world around him? Would I be speaking to you now as both a parent and a staff member, trying to help other families get the services that we received? To be perfectly honest with you, I don't know. And quite frankly, I really don't even want to think about that. So you're probably wondering, did President Obama write him back? Yes, he did. And Zachary was over the moon with excitement when he got his letter from the president. The president in his letter said, "Young people like you inspire me and give me great hope for the future." So I'm asking you now, has Zachary inspired you? And if he has, we ask you to join us by making a pledge or a donation and introducing us to others who believe that all children have the potential to do amazing things. Children's Therapy Center has always been a safe place to land for my family and I. We've been back time and time again for orthotic services and social skills groups, and we know that we can keep coming back when we need it. So on behalf of all the children that we serve and all of the children that are waiting, I'd like to invite you to join us in celebrating what is, but helping us commit to what can be. Thank you.